Hey guys, Amazing Maria here, and I just want you to know you are watching Count It Out.
What's poppin'? It's the Bugettoist baddie, Hollywood Haley J, and you're watching Count It Out.
You are listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill After Seal of Approve. Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. The shit's getting crazy, but this is many weeks in a row. I'm Tyler, and I'm joined by Mike. What's going on?
I'm having a week. Are we on talking terms? Are we okay now? Are we good?
I was gonna do a cold open to the show and not tell you about it, where I was just gonna be like, I'm not doing this. I'm not talking to you. You're dead to me. Congratulations, you beat me at fantasy football.
Man, I don't do that because I told you I didn't win. You lost.
Well, to be fair, on the air last week, I did say that you would beat me.
Yeah. I can't take a whole lot of credit. My team did okay. By that I mean Brock Purdy put up some fucking numbers this week, and so did St. Brown. Everybody else on my team sucked, and it just so happened that they just didn't suck as much as the guys on your team.
Yeah, I had some pretty big injuries, so that did not help my cause at all, and I left a lot of my points on the bench where they belong, of course.
Like there are at least 7 other people in our league that lost their games and still put up better points than I did.
Welcome to fantasy football.
You know, so but I'm going up against your one of your brothers this week, and he is left as the only person who's 0-3 right now, so I can't lose to him, or else I might as well just walk away.
Well, you know what? The league's tight right now. I was in second place last week with a 2-0 record. I'm now 2-1, and I dropped to 7th place. So yeah, things are getting crazy.
Anything can happen, man. It's fun. I will tell you this. I go back and forth day by day of whether or not I hate you for bringing me into this or I love you for bringing me into this.
I absolutely hate football this year. I hate everything about it. The Bengals are shit. My fantasy teams are all shit, and you're shit because you beat me, and I'm very sore loser. So you're dead to me, and the show is over. Take it home, Mike.
I can't talk about the Bengals right now.
It's a rough go. Go. Well, we've got everyone's attention before we get into the show this week. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps. And YouTube's been great. If you guys could help us out with that. I also want to do
I want to thank everybody for it seems like we really got people enjoying the show we did last week on the 90s storylines.
Yeah, really happy with the numbers on our last couple of weeks.
One of our more successful shows of the last few months. Thank you very much for all that. But we see all these people listening, and that subscribe number never went up. Hit that subscribe, buddies.
It went up a little bit, actually. Not much, but it did go up a little bit. But we want more. Give us more. And the last thing I want to plug before we get into talking about a little wrestling is if you guys have any free time, I know there's a lot of wrestling on TV, but a very important pet project of mine that I've been working on with some people from Barrie Wrestling is launching this week. It launched on Tuesday. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. If you could join us in watching Barrie Wrestling's Rush Hour. Rush Hour is a very unique concept that we're doing at Barrie Wrestling, where we're utilizing the archives, but we're presenting it in a way that is storyline driven still. So, it's just something I think that's fun. There's so many great matches, right? And basically, the way that it's been described is that a new weekly wrestling series that showcases the matches that you love or may have missed, combined with a storyline element to keep you watching. So we're building angles. We're going back in the archives, and we've written out many weeks of television. It's been a lot of hard work between myself and the team that we're doing together. And I don't know if they want to be named on air or not, so I'm not going to name them until I hear from them personally to say it's okay to give them the credit. But I'll do it anyways. Mike Jeffries and Sean Gibson.
I'm not going to mention them, Mike Jeffries and Sean Gibson.
Well, I really don't want to mention Sean Gibson because the Steelers are 3-0, and I just
Let's
don't
not
want to
talk
hear
about
it.
that.
So we're going to move on to that. But I'm really excited for this project. Barrie Wrestling's Rush Hour every Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's something that I've been very hands-on and
This is
helping put together, and I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out.
this is actually even better than what I thought it was going to be. When I first found out that you guys were putting a show together called Rush Hour, honestly, I thought it was just going to be an hour of Puff and Pretty Ricky doing imitations of Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker,
Well,
and
yeah.
I was okay with that. But this is even better. Everybody should be watching Rush Hour 100% every Tuesday. Also, I gotta plug something for Barrie Wrestling here because we're building up to the next show, the October show, building a mystery, no pun intended. It's this mystery show where last week
The pun was intended.
it was last week we announced that there was the only match announced was the triple threat match between Pretty Ricky, Psycho Mike, and who was the third?
Stratos.
And Stratos, right. Today, only about an hour before we went to record, did you see the promo that Ricky put up?
I have seen not just that promo, but the other two promos that will be released.
Okay.
Between Stratos and Psycho Mike, they are hilarious.
I haven't seen Stratos's, I haven't seen Psycho's. I just got to tell you all about Pretty Ricky's. If you've never seen Pretty Ricky wrestle, or if you don't follow him on social media, you need to, because he's one of the most entertaining people in professional wrestling today. And I don't mean just in the independents. He's just so entertaining. He's so funny. He's such a good guy too. But because this is a mystery show, I guess Ricky thought that he had to hide his identity, even though it's been announced that he's in this match. So he hid his identity for this promo by muffling his voice, but you still see his face.
Yeah, they did like that, like when you try to hide somebody's identity and
my
they put
God.
the black crowd around there, like, hello, this is
Yeah.
Mike Walsh. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very funny, very funny.
But it's so good, man. He's so funny. I can't wait to see the show. I doubt I'll be able to make it live this year, but I'll definitely be watching on IWTV because this is building up to be something really fun.
Saturday, October the 5th, for those of you that are in the Barrie area, Barrie Wrestling is building a mystery show. There's going to be a Rock 95 Royal Rumble, a four-way tag team, something or other. It's a mystery. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. So this week's show is inspired by Monday Night Raw this week, and I changed my list up at the very last minute, like very
last minute,
24 hours notice here.
You pulled a mic on this one.
I pulled a U on this one originally,
and you pulled it for almost the same reasons I do, because usually I overdo, like my lists. I grab this list and I'm like, I can do this, and it's the stupidest, biggest list in the world, and I only give myself a week to do it. And then the night before, I'm like, I can't do this list, and then
you don't tell me what the list is until 10 minutes before we record.
Exactly, and this is exactly what you've done, because you had a list you've been working on.
I finished my list
for about 2 weeks. You finished it, but you were not happy.
No, I was really happy with the list.
I don't agree. I don't believe that, because you kept saying this is the hardest list. This is the hardest list. The hardest list. I'm changing my list.
No, that's not what happened at all. I did struggle to put the list together, and then yesterday afternoon, yesterday at some point, 24 hours, because this is dropping on Thursday, so at some point the day before we recorded this episode, I finished my list and I was happy with it. I was content with it. I'm like, this is great. And then Raw happened. And then I was like, man, Jey Uso just won the IC title.
Mm-hmm.
Jey Uso's father, Rikishi, is a former Intercontinental Champion.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. I wonder how many other father and son duos have held the same title before. And then I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, well, I'm doing this list.
Let's
and
make
that's
this
what
clear.
we're doing.
Any title, not doesn't have to be the Intercontinental title.
As long as it's the same title. So it could be, I'm just going to make up titles. It could be the Cruiserweight Championship, as long as the father and son held the same title. Now, the only loophole I'm doing here is for tag team titles in the WWF. I don't care if it's the Raw title, the SmackDown title, the Unified title, the Blue Man Group title, the Yellow Submarine title, whatever. A tag team champion is a tag team champion as far as I'm concerned for this list.
You just give so many ideas to R-Truth. You know that?
Hmm. Are you excited for the Vince McMahon documentary that's launching this week? It would have launched yesterday as we put this out.
I'm as excited as I am for any wrestling doc that comes out these days because you have to go into them with such a grain of salt now. Because I do believe while I do think that Vince McMahon with his most latest tweet or whatever social media post, where he's basically covering his ass saying, "Hey, this is not what I expected it to be. This is they're taking liberties, showing more of my evil Mr. McMahon side, and they're not showing the real Vince, blah blah blah." While I do think that's a cop out to a degree, I do agree with it. I do know that documentarians choose how to present something. And it's not always just because it's a documentary, just because it's presented to us doesn't mean we're getting the full story, we're getting the full truth. We're getting somebody's vision. It's just like any film. So you have to go into these movies with any grain of salt. With that said, yeah, it's gonna be enjoyable. Am I gonna believe every word I see from it? No, but I'm looking forward to see what's presented to us.
I thought Vince's message was so phony
Hmm.
and so like obviously like that's the play he's gonna do. But I mean, at
I
the
mean,
end,
he's probably had that written for months. He tried to buy this Netflix
to shut it
documentary
down.
and just to shut it down, and that was like a year ago. And then when that didn't work, he tried to get Ari I forget his last name, the guy who owns TKO or the CEO of TKO. He tried to get
Yeah.
him to buy it, and Ari basically told McMahon to stuff it. So the documentary is coming out. Vince isn't happy about it. Now, why is Vince not happy about it? And we're gonna have to make up our own minds on what we believe. Is Vince not happy about it because it's untrue, or is he unhappy about it because it's true?
Let me
We'll have to make
ask
up our own
you,
minds.
let me ask you a question. And I want to ask this to all our listeners as well. And you can share all your opinions. You can leave us a message if you want. But I would like to know if you let's just pretend in this magical world that these allegations against Vince with all this stuff with Janelle Grant never happened. Okay. In this hypothetical world, none of this happened. He's not in trouble with the law right now. He's just Vince. Is this documentary going to portray Vince as a good person or as an asshole still?
Well, okay, so let's talk about that because that's basically what you're describing is basically what the documentary started off as, because this documentary started out before the accusations came out.
Hmm. And he still was an asshole
We
then.
I was gonna say we already knew Vince McMahon was an asshole. I think it would have been a little bit more of, hey, he's a nice guy, but he did these shitty things. I think they still would have put in things like the Bob Costas interview
100%.
where he looks like a complete asshole. Stuff from the steroid trial where he looks like a complete tool. The stuff, possibly the stuff from Phil Donahue where he does not come off well. So that stuff might be put in and then sprinkled with, but you know,
I still think that's how it's going to go. And then I just think they're going to focus really heavy on this Janelle stuff and bury him
I think we're gonna get 90% of what we were gonna get originally, and then in the last 15 minutes, it's gonna be like, but dun dun dun.
Well, how many parts?
And
Six
then it's gonna
parts?
be.
Is that what it is? 6 parts?
Is it 6 parts?
I think the whole last episode is just going to be.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. It is just gonna be a fuck Vince McMahon show.
But I think
What?
we're going to get there before that. Like you're going to get. It's going to be a pretty. I think that's going to be a pretty accurate description of what Vince is as a person, because he's not a great guy. But you know what though?
No,
Like
and that's he wants to keep telling people there's a difference between Mr. McMahon and Vince.
yeah,
Cool.
Mr. McMahon's nicer than Vince.
They're both assholes.
Yeah, Mr. McMahon's a better person than Vince.
Like I've never met Vince McMahon. I can't tell you from a firsthand. I can only base what I've known on what he gives us. But if you're only going to give us Mr. McMahon, what are we supposed to base it on? So you're telling me that Mr. McMahon was interviewed by Bob Costas? Well, whose fault is that? If you're not going to give us the real Vince during those times when the WWE cameras are not on you, you should be Vince McMahon. Do I think we've seen some good sides of Vince? Do I think Vince has some redeemable qualities?
Of course he
Yeah, I'd
does.
like to think so. And
The
I
the
think
whole rehab thing that he does for everybody is great.
exactly, and I think we have seen some good stuff from Vince, and there are some people that I really respect who admire Vince McMahon. So
Well,
he can't be all bad, but
here's the thing with that too, and a lot of people are shitting on a lot of people that defend Vince or stick up for Vince.
yeah, I got
There
a couple things to say about that. But
there are guys out there, and I think there are very specific people that I understand why they would say that stuff. People like Undertaker, people like
mhm,
Mick Foley, people like John Cena, maybe Austin. I haven't heard Austin say too much about it, but all these people probably have a different relationship with Vince McMahon
100%.
than anybody. And that would and there's a lot of father-like probably tendencies with Vince to these people. So it would just be like in your life, if you found out that, your father or a close sibling to you did all these terrible things, you would have a hard time, separating it. It's like how Jericho does it with Benoit.
But
He's like, I
and
I remember my friend Chris, and
yeah,
then but I'll never forgive the
okay,
actions.
all right. And you just used one of my points here. If somebody wants to come out and say, "Hey, um, I don't know what the truth is," and that's what Mick Foley said. Mick Foley said, "I'm not going to pretend to know the truth, and until I know the truth, I'm just going to act the same way I always have." I'm okay with that because he didn't take a side either way. There was no shitting on the victim. There was like Mark Henry has done. There was no sucking Vince McMahon's dick at any point. But it also wasn't on the other hand either where he pretends, well, I know that he's guilty. If you don't know, you don't know. Say you don't know and move on. That's what Mick Foley did, and I appreciate that. Um, I have a problem with some of the stuff that John Cena said, not what he said, but how he said it. And this ties into my biggest problem, which was Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, he's a loser.
Yes, he is, but what he said is not far off from what John Cena said. And again, I think Del Rio meant what he said, and I think John Cena just said what he meant wrong. Here's my biggest problem. When you come out and you say, I don't care what he did, he was good to me, so I'll be good to him. I have a fucking problem with that. I really, really have a problem with that. See, that was John Cena's take. He
Yeah,
was
it
good.
wasn't exactly like that, but it
He
was that was he
basically said, it doesn't matter what he did, I will always love him. So basically, to me, my ears here there is fuck the victims.
I don't take it like
I
that.
only care about who's good to me. That's how I took that. I really did.
I take
Del
that as
Rio,
well, I take that more as like I no matter what he's done, like I will always have a love for him. I don't think he's accepting or condoning what he's done, but I think that goes back to my point of he's having a hard time
yeah.
separating the two, right?
And then you have Del Rio, who flat out came out and said, and Jim Cornette said something something very similar to this, um, right after Vince retired, and everybody was all happy about it. Cornette said something very, very similar, but this is before the Janelle Grant accusations were public. Del Rio says, it doesn't matter what Vince McMahon has done. Look what he did for you. He created this whole thing. He created everything that we love. And for that, we should forgive him and love him.
Yeah,
Fuck
no.
you.
Yeah,
I no.
that's you don't forgive. You can
I
have a hard time processing it, but you can't ignore what's being done. You know what I mean? Like you
and
can't.
and and to your point, what Jericho said, if people were using that Benoit defense in this case, I'd be a little bit more understanding. If you were to say, listen, because of what's come to light and the things that we may or may not know, I don't respect Vince as a person, but I respect his body of work and I respect what he's created. I'm cool with that. Because that's my camp. I've been a WWE fan my entire life, and we have Vince McMahon to thank for that. So you have to respect his body of work, and you have to respect his everything he's done for wrestling. In the same sense that you don't have to respect Chris Benoit anymore. You don't have to respect him as a human being. You don't respect his actions. You don't have to respect a lot of things. Do I look down on you for respecting his body of work and the legacy he left on wrestling? Of course not. To me, those are two very separate things.
Yeah, it's like a weird. It's wrestling's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really is. Like
It's the
it,
weirdest form of entertainment ever because it's the
it's the
one.
same
It's
thing with movies too. There's so many actors, like Kevin Spacey, for example. I don't respect him as a person. He's done terrible things, but I love Negotiator. Great movie.
I love how out of all his phenomenal films, that's the one you pull out of a bag.
I
That
love The
makes me so
Negotiator.
happy. That makes me so
It's a
happy.
great movie.
That's so funny to me.
I wasn't a big
Uh,
Spacey fan. I like that one
I
though.
love Kevin Spacey. I absolutely love Kevin Spacey. That's not the first movie I would have pulled out of the bag of tricks. Uh, um, no, I agree with you 100% on that. And like I said, this is the weirdest form of entertainment in the world because it's the only form of entertainment where people still, after 30 years of kayfabe being dead, people still have a hard time separating reality from fiction. Where it's, oh well, they can't do that because they did all those awful things, and no, they didn't. They were playing a character. Like, Kane didn't really electrocute that guy's nuts. They didn't really beat up those women and kill each other and do all that stuff. This is all scripted. This is all a movie. This is all
Yeah,
a
but
fantasy.
you know what feeds into that though, Mike? It's not the fans that have the fans have just as hard of a time separating it as the wrestlers do. How many
Hmm.
guys just get lost in that world, man? Like they're just they can't separate. As rock stars are the same way. It's a crazy
Yeah.
life. These guys, these people are living such a crazy lifestyle that people like us could never understand, Mike.
No.
Like I don't know what it would be like to be on an airplane or a bus 5 nights a week in a different city where you probably don't even know where you are half the time.
Yeah.
Having people throwing themselves at you, good, bad, and ugly, drinking, partying, drugs, right? Women, men, depending on if you're a female, male, gay, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's the lifestyle. It's not
Mm.
as crazy probably as it used to be. It probably used to be a lot crazier back in the day, but nobody can separate these things. But that's the problem, is that that's not how real life works either. You can't just go around and do all this shit and then just be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's cool." Like for me, I won't understand that world. I could never understand doing things that these people have done, that Vince has done. But I'm not gonna stop watching wrestling because Vince did a bad thing. Like
Well, that's it.
I love wrestling. I don't love Vince.
Yeah, exactly. Like it'd be almost too easy for me to say, "Oh, I'm never watching WWE again" or anything to do with WWE. You know what? If you're gonna say that, then you have to stop watching wrestling completely because Vince has inspired every bit of what wrestling is now. It doesn't matter if you're watching AEW, TNA, it doesn't matter. Vince had everybody was inspired by WWF, no matter what they're gonna tell you.
I just think the thing that I'm most intrigued about this documentary, it's not what they say about Vince. I want to see what the boys are saying. Who's still trying to get a job? Who's still, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
who's working,
It's gonna
who's
be interesting to
not.
see who gets interviewed for this because I know, like, do you remember that tremendously done McMahon DVD years ago?
Mhm.
Again, that was a WWE, and I think that's what he wanted this to be.
100% of this. He's got
You
an
know what I
ego.
mean?
He's got an
Yeah,
ego that needs to be stroked.
that's what he wanted this to be. But they got Bob Costas interviewed in that. You know, I want to see a Bob Costas on this one because
Oh, they're gonna have all the
I think he'd be a little bit more candid. You know what I mean?
they're gonna have
Um,
everybody.
get that guy who got fired years ago when he wouldn't sleep with Pat Patterson.
Yeah, you're gonna
You
I
know,
think we're gonna get it all covered. I don't think they're gonna turn away from anything.
Before we move on, because we were just talking about how wrestlers have a hard time and fans have a hard time separating the two worlds. And I do believe that this is fiction, and you're no different than a Hollywood actor. If you're wrestling in the WWE, I think you're no different than any actor on TV or Hollywood. You're playing a character. And guess what, bud? That guy's name isn't Kane. It's Glenn Jacobs. He's an actor playing a character. All
Somehow
right.
Kane's a better person than
And
Glenn Jacobs too.
oh, yeah. um, with that said, this is kind of off topic, but on topic at the same time. I want to say this has been bothering me for about almost going on 30 years because it started kind of with Owen Hart. Way back in the day, they wanted to do a storyline with where Owen was having an affair with Deborah. And Owen was extremely offended and disgusted and did not want to do it. So I can't have my wife and my kids see me doing that. And in that case, I'm like, okay, you're playing a character named Owen Hart. So I kind of get that.
Yeah, but maybe more from a moral
but
standpoint too. There's some
but
people that don't want to kiss
and that
another woman, right?
then you're in the wrong fucking job. You're an actor.
No, hold on
no
here.
no nobody's getting hired to go in a movie. You're telling me that Brad Pitt gets a movie and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm not kissing anybody.
Yeah, but that's
Doesn't fly
ridiculous.
like that.
But that's a totally different industry, Mike. You're a
No,
professional.
but
You're a
it's not.
professional wrestler. You're not. You don't sign up for this thing thinking, "Who am I going to kiss today?"
In the WWE, you're not a wrestler. You're an entertainer.
Well,
And
Owen has also asked for his release by that point as well.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying it started with Owen. It bugged me with Owen, but it didn't bother me. But now, fly over 30 years, and you have Jimmy Uso all pissy because they're putting his brother in a storyline with Rhea Ripley. And apparently, it relieves bothering him. He doesn't think that his brother, who's a married person, should be in a romantic angle with a person who's a married person.
No, I haven't heard any of this.
And then the Dominic's involved with Liv, who's a married, and Dominic's a married person. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you something. There is no Jey Uso. There's Joshua Fatu. There is no Rhea Ripley. There is no Dominic Mysterio. These are all characters. And these characters can do whatever the fuck they want on television. I'm sure all their wives and husbands understand this, their business, they get it.
I don't know.
If they don't, you're in the wrong fucking business.
I disagree with you. I disagree.
Go work somewhere else.
I disagree with you strongly on this.
This is not WWE has not been a wrestling company for almost 40 years. This is an entertainment industry.
It's also not a soap
telling
opera.
Stories. Yes, it is.
It's not.
But it is.
I don't think so. I think that you do have the right to turn these things down if you don't feel comfortable doing it.
Especially somebody who came up watching the Attitude Era like yourself. You tell me it's not a fucking
The Attitude Era sucked.
Yeah, but don't go watch and tell me this is not a soap opera.
But what I'm saying though is that you're not signing up to do that. You are a professional wrestler. Yes, you will do some acting, you will do whatever. However, if somebody comes to me and my morals are like, I don't want to kiss another woman, I would say no. It depends on a lot of circumstances. But like I don't think because you sign up to be a WWE superstar that you can bend your morals if you don't want to. I don't think you should do that for any job.
I just think that if your morals are against what the job description is, then
the job description isn't I want to make out with other women.
Whoa! You don't know that. When was the last time you got an interview with?
Well, I'm just looking. But neither do you. But I'm looking.
No, I don't.
I'm looking at the business.
But I'm assuming
from
that
outside, obviously looking in.
Yeah.
But when I think of the WWE, I don't think of I'm going to make out with a million people.
Well, if you've watched WWE over the last 30 years, you know that there's a good fucking chance.
There is not a great chance. There has been many. There's been many storylines, yes, that do involve that. A lot of them involve real couples. Some of them do not.
Unfortunately, there's a good chance you're going to end up on your hands and knees barking like a dog and and kissing a grown man's bare asshole.
Riveting television.
Well,
But
unfortunately,
again,
you and I are in the fucking minority here of people who don't like the Attitude Era.
Yeah, well, the Attitude Era, like, hey, listen, don't get me wrong. Attitude Era had some great stuff, had some great moments.
Some the Austin stuff, give it to me all day long.
A lot more stuff doesn't hold up than it does.
You could not be more
But
correct.
I think the biggest difference is like, and you use the term being an actor. If I'm an actor, part of my job is to do that. I understand that because that's what is a part of a movie. There could be love scenes, there could be whatever. If I'm a wrestler, I'm going to think about it a little differently. I'm not here for that. I'm here to be a wrestler. Yes, I have entertaining aspects to me, but same thing with movie stars. If they don't feel comfortable doing something, they don't do it. They say no. And there's been countless times that you've heard women say that with people wanting nudity, let's say in a scene, and people are like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yes, and I will agree with you there. I will give you like there should be limitations. There should be like when I found out that Lita did not want to do the nude scene for the live sex celebration, and they basically threatened her job over it. I'm not for that. I'll give you that.
Yeah, but if it's against your morals and you say no, then that should be the end of it. But in the world of wrestling, you get punished. Not so much anymore, I don't think, but back in the day, you would get punished if you said no to anything. It could be anything.
And that's the thing too. For all those people that are advocating and sticking up for Vince McMahon, just look at the massive differences, not only in the product, but in the work environment that we've seen in WWE in the last year and a half. Triple H has obviously taken away a lot of the toxic environment that was there. And what's the number one catalyst there? What's the one thing that was taken away? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to see that you take Vince McMahon out of the situation and everything gets better.
Well, and TJ Wilson said this on our show. I asked him before all the allegations, I said, what's the biggest differences between working with Vince and working with Hunter? And he said, working with Vince, obviously you learn a tremendous amount. Like I know everything I know because of Vince. He created wrestling. I can have different conversations. It's easier to talk to Hunter because he was a wrestler and a business guy. And Vince wasn't a wrestler. He wrestled matches, obviously, but like Vince didn't have his first match until he was like 50. You know what I mean? Like Hunter's a wrestler. So he's like, I can talk to him like a wrestler with the business suit on. And I think that's a big thing. The other huge thing, though, is also TKO. They don't give a shit about the history of professional wrestling. And take a look at that, because what's the first thing they said we're doing? Let's chop down house shows incredibly. They're going to chop them down huge. They chopped a lot this year, even more going next year, because they're looking at it going, we don't make any money. We don't make a lot of money doing these. So why are we doing them? That might be the foundation of the business. That's how the business was built.
Exactly.
They don't give a shit. Let's make money.
They're chopping the money and saving their employees strenuous activity. It's cutting on the house shows. I've always been a big fan of. Bring more TV to more towns, but you don't need as many house shows. Up until what, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but up until at least 2010, they were still running 6 to 7 days a week.
Yeah, I don't think
there's no reason for that. There's no reason for that.
And they missed such golden opportunities too. Like instead, even if you go back to the brand split, right? You have Raw and SmackDown. Instead of being like, okay, this week, this is Raw's loop. Give all the SmackDown guys the weekend off. Next week, SmackDown. Give all the Raw guys. You can charge your batteries. Now, let's run 2 house shows in 2 different places. Like, I get it, business, you're making money, but I mean, the well-being of your talent is also important. Well, I think after that riveting Vince McMahon conversation, and we will give our feedback to the Vince documentary as we watch it as well. I think that's fair to say.
Well, all 6 episodes are being dropped as of this recording tomorrow. I believe Wednesday. So
yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday, as of you're listening to this. So it's fair to say that you and I will at least have watched a good amount of it by the next recording.
Yeah, maybe we'll try to review like two
Well, if
episodes
you
a
think to
week,
talk, yeah,
2 or 3 episodes a week.
yeah.
Real quick before we get into the list, my list this week is top 7 fathers and sons that have won the same title. What do you think about Jey Uso as your new Intercontinental Champion?
I'm surprised by Braun Breaker's short run. I'm not upset by it, but I'm surprised by it. Uh, the only thing that bothers me, if they were gonna do this, if they were gonna put it on Jay, it should have been months ago. It should like don't get me wrong, I love Sammy. I love Sammy. The moment with him and Gunther was great. But if you were going to put this on Jay eventually, anyways, it should have been Jay to topple Gunther.
Yeah, I would have liked Jey to have toppled Gunther as well. It's so hard because I really like what Sammy did with the belt
Mm,
as well. They had that great moment at WrestleMania. I think Jey winning the title at Backlash from Gunter would have been phenomenal. And you know what? I wouldn't have hated having Jey and Sammy have a little feud over the
for
title
sure.
in the summer. But whatever. But I'm happy that it was a short title run for
It
Breaker because
it's crazy to
not every
go ahead.
title run needs to be 9 months. You know what I mean? Like every title run, they're really getting back into the habit of long title runs, which I love.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
so funny because like 10 years ago, I was like, all the title runs are too short. Like
And now
now
they're
it's
too long.
now, but now no, it's not even that they're too long, but now we're getting back to a good mix of things, you know?
Yeah.
Like Roman had the long reign, Gunter had the long reign. But now we're seeing like the IC title is getting
I
it's competitive, right?
While I do agree with you, I agree with you and don't agree with you at the same time here. I do agree with you that not everyone needs a 9 month reign. That's 100% right. You can have, and you and I love this misuse of the term transitional champion. You can have a short reign, doesn't mean you're a transitional champion. But I think it depends on who you are and who you are having, where you are in the scope of your career, having that short reign. I don't think this was the time for Braun to have a short reign.
Unless they
I
trade
think
the
I
title
think,
back and forth a couple times.
and maybe that's what we're gonna see. My initial reaction to this is, I think this is gonna damage Braun. Am I wrong? Who knows? We're gonna see. I hope I'm wrong.
I don't think it does. I think that just winning the title on its own, whether it was
Mhm.
for 1 year, 1 month, whatever, elevates Braun because I think
Yeah.
the IC title is feels the most important that it's felt in a long time right now because of that Gunter reign. And then Sammy had an incredible reign. So I think that just being on the level that you could win that title right now, I think elevates Braun. And I think people take him more seriously now.
Do you have anybody in mind that you'd like to see Braun feud with anytime soon?
I want to see him stay with Jey Uso.
No.
I
Okay.
want to see them go for a couple months.
I don't even know if they're on the same brand or not, to be honest. But I have this thing in my head. I really want to see him and Kevin Owens have a nice long.
Yeah, you know who I'd like to see? I'd like to see Braun and Jay feud for a little bit. I think it's only a matter of time before Braun's a face. I'd like to see him and Bronson Reed have a program after he's done with Jey Uso.
Throw
They're
pro,
really booking Bronson Reed strong right now. He's doing
th-
great stuff with
throw a triple threat with Braun Strowman.
yeah, well, I mean Strowman and Bronson Reed are having
Yeah,
phenomenal matches right
that's
now.
it.
Like
I'll
they're
see.
doing great stuff.
Let's see Braun and Bronson.
There you go, BBB.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into my list here. So
All right.
the
I have some names in my head that I'm hoping to see on your list. So I'm excited to see your list today.
so the criteria for my list is that it has to be the same title, has to be father and son.
Okay.
It could be a stepfather as well, but I don't have any on my list that are step
But
siblings, but it could be.
but no like in-laws.
No, no in-laws. Has to be
Okay.
your dad. Has to be your
Okay.
dad
So
or your
it's
stepdad.
not like Vince and Triple H both held the world title.
No, no,
Okay.
no. And I'm looking at kind of the impact of the title reigns a little bit, not
Hmm.
too crazy, but it could sway, like the moments could sway, and just the overall cool factors of if I think like, oh man, that's kind of a neat little thing. So we're gonna start with number 7, and we're going to look at the WWF Tag Team titles or the WWF Tag Team titles, and we're gonna look at the Soul Man Rocky Johnson and Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Okay. You already took one of mine that I was hoping to see. Good.
Yeah,
All right.
I think this is great. I think the impact of Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas winning the tag titles is huge. I believe they were the first black tag team champions in
They were.
WWF history.
Mm-hmm.
And then the legacy, carrying over to The Rock. I think this is a really cool little monument that they both could share together of The Rock. Now, The Rock, granted, didn't have any phenomenal tag team title runs, but him and The Rock and Sock Connection, I believe, was his.
While doing my minimal research for this, like I remembered Rock and Sock, obviously. I have zero recollection of him being tag team champions with The Undertaker.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
don't
have
remember
no
that.
recollection of that whatsoever. And then
Yeah,
who was the other one? Jericho?
I think they might have had a cup of coffee as well. That was at the time
Yeah.
period where like he was just winning belts with people he was feuding with. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really cool that you get that historic title win with Rocky Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
and then his son wins the tag title and then becomes the biggest wrestler,
I
one of the
mean,
biggest
that
wrestlers of all time.
out of all his title wins, I bet you that was one of the most special ones, winning the tag team championships for the first time.
Yeah, I think he probably definitely had
Because,
a
because
moment,
I know
right?
I know he took a lot of pride in his father being the first ever black tag team champion.
100%. We're gonna stick with you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a lot of tag team titles on this list, so
I
uh,
got I got at least two names that are tag team champions, so I want to see.
we're gonna stick with tag team titles. And my number six, this one's on here because I think this is really cool. And it's not so much for great title reigns or whatever, but I'm talking about Mike Rotunda,
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Bray
And Bray Wyatt.
Wyatt,
Yeah, and
and Bo Dallas.
yeah. Okay.
Because not many people remember the B team, where Bo and Curtis Axel were tag team
I
champions.
thought I had you stumped on this one.
No, I
Yeah,
thought this was so cool that
me too.
Mike Rotundo, part of the U.S. Express with
Mhm.
Barry Windham, who we may be talking about later, who knows?
Who knows?
And Bray and Bo got to have this moment, and I think it would have just been a matter of time before Bray and Bo were tag team champions on their own with this Uncle
Hmm.
Howdy and Fiend stuff. But
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt had a couple tag team title reigns with Randy Orton and with Matt Hardy, I
Matt Hardy.
believe,
Yeah.
and Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham, and then the
Technically,
B team.
if I'm not mistaken, the one with Randy, there was actually there was Freebird rules. It was him,
With
Randy,
Harper.
and Luke Harper. Yeah.
I believe so. I can't remember if they got
Hmm.
Harper in there or not. But
Yeah, they did.
I just thought it was really cool that not only did Bray and Mike and like it's just the fact that Mike got to share that with both of his kids, I think
Yeah.
is super neat. And I thought that warranted a number six spot. Number
Love
five.
that. Love that, man.
Number five, I'm pulling a Mike on this one. This one might be a little bit closer to the heartstrings than I'm pulling a Mike.
Brock Lesnar's theme song.
They got old number five. I'm going with the British Bulldog Davy Boy Smith and Davy Boy Smith Jr. for your tag team championships.
I'm sorry. Remind me, when was Harry champion?
Him and Tyson
I
for new
have zero recollection of that. Okay.
yeah, New Heart Foundation where
Yeah.
they were tag team champions and
Okay.
they had a great feud with the Usos. That they actually the Usos debuted against those guys as a matter of
Mm,
fact on the main roster. But I mean, the British Bulldogs, one of the greatest tag teams in the history of tag team,
absolutely. Yeah.
hands down, no question about it. Davy Boy Jr., chip off the old block, man. He is a phenomenal talent. Hopefully, we can get him on the show at some point. I would love to talk to him for a little bit. And I just like seeing that British Bulldog slash Heart Foundation legacy carry on with Tyson and Davy Boy Jr. I just thought it was great. Brett was involved in their title run as well. I just thought it was really, really awesome that those guys got that moment. I'm sure that meant a lot for Harry.
100%. Harry just did a cameo for my kid for his birthday, and he even taught him a little little Japanese.
Yeah, very cool, very
Yeah.
cool. Number four, this is my only cheat code. I'm cheating on this one. Okay,
You're really pulling a mic on this card.
I am, and I think this one is warranted because
Okay.
it's kind of like a middle ground here. Okay,
The entire
Uso
90 to
clan.
94 run of Bret Hart.
My number four is Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig.
Hmm. Mm.
Now I want you to go left or right here, Mike.
Okay, yeah.
You want to go right? Let's talk about being the Intercontinental Champion with Curtis Axel, his son,
Yes. Yeah.
who Curtis also won that title on Father's Day, if I'm not mistaken.
What championship did Larry hold that Kurt would have held? That would have been an AWA, right?
Correct.
Wasn't the world championship? Was it the U.S. title?
No, it was the tag team
Was,
champions.
with Scott Hall.
Kurt
Yeah.
was the tag team champion with Scott Hall.
Mhm.
Larry, multiple time tag team champion, most notably with Harley Race.
That's right. Mhm.
So I just thought that was really
Very
cool
cool.
that you
I
just
like
stick
I
Kurt in
like
the
that.
middle and you
Yeah.
you choose your own adventure
Either
there,
way,
okay?
I
You
like
choose
that.
your own
Okay,
adventure.
if you're gonna cheat, that's the way to cheat. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because it still makes sense. It's just
Hmm.
Kurt's the middle ground there, so you can
Hmm.
choose your own adventure. Do you want my number 4 to be Larry or Curtis? But
Yeah.
Kurt's in there.
I
And
love
because
that.
originally I wasn't going to put this on the list. It didn't make my cut originally. And then
If
I
if
thought about
Larry
it.
wasn't the catalyst here,
Yeah.
I don't think it makes your list.
No,
Curtis doesn't make my list.
number 3, I think this is super cool because it happened together. And I'm talking about Ray and Dominic Mysterio.
Okay. This was the one again I thought you were gonna kind of slide by on. And
I did forget about it momentarily. I was putting my list together and I was like, oh fuck. Like it was one of those oh fucks. I got to put that on
yeah.
there.
Well, I'm happy if you officially almost have all mine. You have one left that you haven't gotten so far. Cool. I
Um,
really no, this was a great moment. I know if you were to ask Rey Mysterio his favorite moments of his entire career,
I bet you this is number 1.
I guarantee this is in the top three, if not number one.
Yeah, I think so too. And then just to see where Dom's gone since his moments,
Oh
like,
my God.
yeah, he's incredible. He really is. But
I'm not sure, like, I'm sure almost every parent is proud of their kids, like where they've gone in the business. You know, I guarantee Bob Orton can't be prouder of Randy, knowing where Randy has gone, and vice and so on, so on. But I don't know if there's anybody prouder of their son than Ray is, because I don't think Dominic was given that. When Randy came in, you knew he was going to be a star. You know what I mean? When a lot of people, they come in and you're like, oh, that's the when Charlotte Flair came in, you knew she was going to be a star. Dominic came in, people weren't buying him right away. It wasn't until he had his face turn, or he had his heel turn, and then he started doing the stuff he's doing with the Judgment Day. Then he became the biggest star in the world, and he proved everybody wrong. He became the best heel in wrestling in an era where we have guys like Logan Paul and MJF. Okay, so
for the record too, just I want to put this on record. You did mention Charlotte Flair. If Ric Flair ever held the women's championship, that would be my number 1 with a bullet. I just want to put that out there for the world.
I was going to tell you, if she held the women's championship and the NWA's women's championship, I was going to tell you I would buy it if you allowed it.
Yeah, I would have thought if she would held the NWA Women's Championship, I would have thought about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I still honestly thought about it with the Women's Championship.
I was going to bring this up because it's the equivalent.
It is.
So I was going to bring this up as an honorable mention.
So that's why I just kept it to father sons, just to keep it simple today.
Okay.
Number 2, I'm gonna have to sell you on this one, but I think it's really cool, and I have a reason why it's here.
Sure.
Barry Windham and Blackjack Mulligan.
Okay.
It's my number 2.
Yeah.
Because they each held 2 of the same titles.
Okay.
They were the NWA United States champions in the NWA, and they were also both WWF Tag Team champions. As we mentioned, Barry with Mike Rotundo earlier, and then, of course, the Blackjack. So not only did they do it once, they did it twice. I think that's really cool.
So I can't have that part, but yeah, I can't have that part. So I want you to remember that, okay?
Okay.
Because when I give you shit for somebody leaving somebody off your list, and you're like, I want you to remember that, because that's part of the reason I wanted them on your list.
Well, we'll see who they are, because
Okay.
I'm a huge Barry Windham mark.
Because there's another person that held 2 titles that his father held, and I'm a tiny bit disappointed we didn't get to talk about them today, because I guarantee they're not your number 1. But we'll get there when we get there.
I think my number 1, I wasn't going to be my number 1 until I kind of took a step back and looked at it. And I just think my number 1 has to be Cody and Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, I'm looking for the title.
The N-
NWA title. I forgot.
NWA world title.
I totally forgot that that Cody held the NWA world title. Yeah, okay.
It's the only father-son duo that I could find that won the world championship together. And neither one of them had spectacular runs as the NWA champion,
No.
but they both created such beautiful moments when they won the titles. Like when Dusty won it in the cage and all the baby faces came out, and Cody winning it at All In, which was like one of the most important wrestling shows of all time. Say whatever you want about AEW, but that show, that All In show, is one of the most
Mhm.
important wrestling shows of all time. And I just think that
Hey, let's not sleep on AEW. He created or helped create an ulterior to WWE. He helped create um a competition to Vince McMahon.
they're a major promotion.
They're a major
You know,
promotion. Just because I don't watch them does not mean I don't respect the fact that
oh, I'm not saying that.
that a bunch of indie guys
I'm
got
saying,
together and said, "Look what we did." I respect the
yeah,
fuck out of that.
I'm not saying that to just to like, 'cause I know some people hate AEW, and what I'm saying is say what you want about AEW.
Mhm.
This show catalyst that, like you just said, and this was the best.
All In is one of the most important shows of this millennium.
Yeah, it's one of the most important shows of all time, in my opinion.
I
It really
agree.
is. And Cody winning the title on that show, I think, was the best moment on the show, in my
Let,
opinion.
let me ask you, when you take in All In, when you take in both his WWE careers and then take his entire indie run, because he was Matt Cardona before Matt Cardona was Matt Cardona. He was doing that indie work everywhere thing.
Well,
And then
he
taking the
just
creation
pulled
of
a Colt. He
AEW.
just pulled a Colt Cabana and all on. They're all pulling
Yeah,
Colt Cabanas.
you're not wrong. But when you put all that together, has Cody surpassed the success of his father?
Um, it's hard to tell. And it's hard to answer that question because there's so much of Dusty that we didn't get to see.
Mm.
So I'm gonna say he's at least.
What
I'm
is
gonna say
Dusty's legacy?
well,
What is
because
Dusty? Because
Dusty's got two legacies. He's got his in ring and his promo work, and he's got his booking
his
legacy as
booking,
well, right?
and I'm going to throw a third on top of that because I think his what he did with NXT at the end
Yeah.
help building the future. Look at the people that came out of his camp. I think cements his legacy.
I don't think Cody's past Dusty's legacy. Um I think he's on his way to being there. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's on to a fantastic part of where he should be. But I think it's going to depend on what Cody does in his later years. Like you said, the NXT
Yeah.
and the booking. Like from an in-ring standpoint, I think he's probably equal with his dad. I think he's accomplished just as much
Oh,
in
okay.
the
I just
ring.
say he's 10,000 times more talented than his dad ever was.
Well, I mean, Dusty was a different type of, but I mean accomplishments from an in-ring
Yeah. Okay.
standpoint.
No,
Like
I agree.
I think they're pretty equal there. They both won titles all over the world. They both
Mm-hmm.
toured. I think that he's pretty good there. But Dusty as a whole, I think is still, oh fuck. But Cody and AEW, that's tough. That's a tough question to answer, Mike. I don't have an answer.
I know they're the first people to do it. We're going back in your list now. I want to go back to Ray and Dominic. I know they're the first people to do it in WWE, but are Ray and Dominic the first people, the first father and son ever to be tag team champions? Was it done anywhere else?
I'm sure in Mexico, there's a million
Oh,
people in
there's a lot of those
Mexico
things, yeah.
that I just am not familiar enough with them to put them on my list.
Because honestly, my first, and I'm surprised they haven't pulled the trigger on this yet. Ricky and Kerry Morton have been wrestling together for like 2 years now. The fact that they haven't put the straps on them is very surprising.
Yeah, I was looking into that as well. And I don't know if Ricky
and Ricky was never the junior champion. I looked into that.
Yeah, that's what I was. He was never the WCW Cruiserweight champion either, right?
No, he was not. No,
because that's kind of the same thing.
But Kerry, because the only single title Kerry's had, as far as I know, is the NWA Junior Championship, and to my knowledge, Kerry hasn't held a whole lot of single championships.
No. So who did I miss, Mike? Who's your?
I mean Ricky. Okay, you might be completely against me here, but the only people I wanted to see on your list here were Ted and Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, I thought about it.
Both men were tag team champions. Both men were $1 million champions.
Yeah,
I
It's
don't know, man. I now with the way your list is, I really like your list. Where do they fit in? I don't know,
I just
but
thought
they were the
everybody
people I
else was
wanted to
better.
see.
I
Yeah.
just thought everybody else's were better than those two. Like Ted Jr.
Now,
He
because
was so short in the business, right?
in my original headspace, Kurt and Curtis didn't make the list. So that's where it would have made room for this.
Yeah,
You throw Larry in there and you make a
but
case.
I had one I think I would have put instead of Ted and Ted Jr. even over if I didn't have Kurt on there.
Okay.
The hardest one for me to leave you're gonna laugh at me for this, but Chavo Guerrero and Chavo Classic with the cruiserweight title.
Yeah, all
I
right.
love the work that because it was again one of those things done
Yeah.
together, but it was so
Yeah.
entertaining and so fun. The only other honorable mentions I had were Dusty and Dustin with the U.S. title.
I
That one
was gonna bring that up.
I gave some consideration to. Rikishi and the Usos with the tag team titles. Rikishi had a cup of coffee as tag team champion with Scotty 2
I
Hotty
keep
and with the
forgetting
head
that happened.
shrinkers as well, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Uh, I put some thought into Taz and Hook with the FTW title, but I'm not really,
Nah, no.
it's like the $1 million title. It's not.
See, screw that. $1 million title has prestige. No, my problem isn't the title. It's the it's the wrestlers. I'm Taz will never make a list for me, and
I love Taz, big
I don't see
Taz.
I don't see the hype on Hook at all.
I'm not buying it. I don't see it with Hook either, but Taz, I'm a big fan of Taz in the ring. Big fan.
Yeah, I can't say he won't make a list. There's a few lists he would have made. I do think he has one of the greatest debuts of all time. He's got one of the coolest entrance songs of that era. So yes,
But his ECW run was
he makes a couple
so
lists.
incredible. He's in one of the greatest ECW stars of all time.
He falls into that what I call now the Mark Henry category, where he pisses me off so much that I don't want to give him credit for the things I know I should give him credit for.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it,
you
but
got more heat with Mark Henry than I do. I haven't been reading. I don't know if I've just
oh,
missed some of the
because
things.
because you just haven't been listening or reading it, and that's fine. Don't do it to yourself. He's a douchebag. He's a dick. I don't. I have zero respect for Mark Henry.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Mark Henry. But again, I don't know everything he said. So as of right now, from what I've read, I haven't seen anything that's upset me by him. I've agreed
He
with a fair amount.
he flat out came out and said the only reason Janelle Grant is suing Vince McMahon is because he ended the relationship.
I don't know. I did not see that, so I won't comment on it. But if you did say that, I don't like that. Not
Yeah.
nice.
But
That's my list.
I like your list.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Like I said, the of all like I had 4 or 5 people in my brain. They all made it except for the DiBiase's. And I'm not even mad DiBiase's didn't make it because I really like the Axel thing or the Henning combination. But also I totally forgot about Blackjack Mulligan and Barry Windham.
Mm.
So that deserves and I'm happy they're at your number 2.
So hold on, let me get this straight. You
I'm a
thought that I was going to forget something, but it turns out you forgot
yes,
something.
that's what happened.
Yay!
I am a big fan of the Wyndhams in general.
Me too.
That whole family dynamic, um, be it married or blood, they're they're all so talented.
Well, and especially
Every last one.
what made me want to put them on the number 2 spot too is that both those title reigns that they had are when those belts were really important still.
Here's a
Like,
question:
yeah.
do the Blackjacks make your top 50 tag teams of all time?
They'd be close. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
They'd be close. I'd have to look into them a little bit more because again, way before my time, the Blackjacks, they were in
Yeah.
the 70s, late 70s,
Yeah,
early
but that's
80s.
no excuse. You watch all that shit.
But
So
I haven't seen a lot of the Blackjacks work. So I'd have to
all right.
research a little bit more.
So do the new Blackjacks make your
Listen,
top 50?
they're not going to make my top 50, but I love the new Blackjacks. And I really think that they could have had a better run.
Can I tell you before we sign off today, I gotta tell you about a rabbit hole I fell down. Do you know what I gotta do a list on soon? Seriously?
What's that?
I'm gonna do a Bob Holly list.
I'm only interested in a Sparkplug Holly list.
I fell down this Bob Holly rabbit hole the other day,
That's
and I
weird.
forgot how goddamn entertaining he is.
Do you want to know what's really funny? Is just as we recorded this yesterday, for some reason, I just started listening to Bob Sparkplug Holly's theme music.
That's
I'm not even
really
lying.
funny time.
That's
It
pretty crazy.
it all excuse
It's a banger of a song.
excuse me. It all started off because I for some reason that clip came up. Remember when he was doing that thing with Brock Lesnar? Lesnar had broke his neck
Yeah.
and he was coming back from that. And I think they must have been LA because he's wearing an LA Chargers jersey. And he's wearing a Rey Mysterio mask and an LA Chargers jersey. And they think he's a fan. He jumps in, he rips off the mask. And I'm like, it's an old spot, but it's a good spot. I love that spot. And Bob pulled it off. Good for Bob. And then I clicked and it went to a thing with him and Crash Holly, and they were always so
Oh
entertaining
yeah, they were
together.
funny.
And then from that, I just kept Googling Bob Holly because I never thought I was a Bob Holly fan, but I think I'm a Bob Holly fan.
I always liked the Dudley Boys and the Holly's little feud they had with
That was
Molly and
great.
Spike, where it was like
Yeah,
Romeo and Juliet. I thought that was really well done.
that was a great story. It was so
Try
fun.
to find them. Let's try to get Bob on the show.
Oh, but I don't think Bob does anything.
I
Bob,
mean,
when was the last time you see Bob do an interview or
exactly.
anything?
I
He
think he's ready.
he didn't even do the voice for his own audiobook. I listened to Bob Holly's audio. Look, it's a fucking British guy. British guy doing Bob Holly. Bob
Gotta
Holly's
love it.
as Southern American as they come.
Gotta love it.
And it's a British guy doing it. So I got an idea. Uh,
I love me that. But yeah, that's my list. My next list, it will be in a couple weeks, so we will get back to that top seven interpromotional moments, maybe
Sweet.
matches. I don't know. There'll be a couple matches on there, but I'm going to tell you, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay is not going to be on my list,
I'm okay with that.
just because like AEW and New Japan. I don't know. Like Ospreay kind of was fully AEW at that point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just didn't feel real.
While preparing for your list, I was looking at other people's lists and I was really pissed off. People kept putting Jericho versus Omega on their list. Jericho was not signed to WWE when he did that.
Jericho's free agent.
Yes, he was. So no, that doesn't count. If you put that on your list, then you're wrong.
Stupid people.
I'll spoil it as long as nothing crazy happens in the world of wrestling in the next 7 days. My list next week will be the greatest main events from the No Mercy pay-per-view. Because up until about 10 years ago, No Mercy was the October pay-per-view, and I want to get back to that. No Mercy had some cool matches.
I
And
think that you I think you should
watching
just do the top seven bad blood matches of all time for both the other pay-per-views they've done.
That was my original list. That was my original. I'm like, I'm going to do an October list. What should I do? Bad Blood makes sense. I sat down and looked at the cards. And I'm like, no,
I can think off the top of my head of,
there's not 7 good matches between the cards, man.
let me see, just off the top of my head. Obviously, number one is Hell in a Cell, Triple H or
Obviously,
Shawn and
Sean Taker.
Hell in a
Ooh,
Cell.
but by the way, public service announcement: don't show that to your 6-year-old.
No, I told you that was a bad idea. You didn't show it to him, did you?
Not no.
You
I
idiot.
started to.
You idiot.
I started to, and then I'm like, this is probably a bad idea.
I told you that was a bad
The
idea.
only reason he wanted to watch it because he's big into Kane right now. He wanted to see Kane's debut. And I'm like, okay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong on some of these matches, but I'm pretty sure Shawn and Hunter had a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood. How many Bad Blood pay-per-views were there? Was there three?
By the time Sean came back in what was that, 2002?
What pay-per-view did Shawn and Hunter have their Hell in a Cell match in?
I mean, you might be right. You very well.
Shawn and Flair. Shawn and Flair had a match at Bad Blood that was good. Nash and there's a lot of Hell in a Cell matches at Bad Blood.
Well, that was the original Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right? Let me see here.
Yeah, I think
yeah, because there was the Bad Blood in 97, and then there wasn't another one until 2003.
Yeah, and that was Nash and Hunter.
It was Triple H and Nash. Then 2004 was Triple H and Shawn.
Yeah. So you had 3 events to choose from.
Yeah, and they all suck.
I think you could have put 7 together. I think you would have stretched for 2 of them. I think you could have got 5 good matches.
So?
Yeah, I think you could have found 5 good matches out of them.
All right, guys. Next week you're either getting No Mercy or Bad Blood, and then the week after that you're getting either No Mercy or Bad Blood.
There you go. Well, I mean, if you wait a little while, the Bad Blood pay-per-view is going to be done, right? When is it? This weekend?
I think it's this weekend. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, I got nothing more to say.
I've got nothing else. We're just wasting time here. On behalf of like the third week in a row where we didn't fight over the list.
Yeah, I'll just bash your shit next week, even though I haven't seen half the matches.
Well, I bashed you enough in fantasy football this week. I figured I'd leave you alone on the list.
You know what? You're out of the league. I'm the commissioner. You're out.
That's true. You are. Well, Commissioner Slaughter, I'm going to put on my face mask and say, you, a pig, count it out.
Cheers.